general public who are starting to wake up a little bit, but they still have no clue how deep this almost hologram of disinformation is that's projected into society, and then we repeat the disinfo, and that gives it that tangible reality, but it's not reality.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. What do you think if the Fed, like right now, we're at about 96% debt to GDP. You know what I mean? And we're the biggest debtor nation in the world. What do you think is going to happen if they print more money?
It is going to hyperinflate the currency, drive up prices, but then the new debts and fractional reserve banking calculations that are made will be made in the new denomination and value, and so we'll just stay in debt and actually get into worse debt.
So, well, what kind of action are you taking? So that's what they'll probably do. And I think what you're saying and what I'm saying is not so much what they're going to do as what are you and I going to do.
Well, I know what I'm doing. My main mission is just to wake people up so they know how they're being hammered, because the big central banks have openly stated their plan was to engineer all this, collapse society, and then use the social unrest as a pretext to swing around the Homeland Security grid on the American people. And that's already now coming from behind the curtain into plain view. And so I'm simply pouring almost all of our assets into this information warfare operation to counter the system. So I guess I'm kind of like for lack of a better term, kind of like flying my information warfare plane, into the deck of their biggest capital ship, just trying to get people to realize what's happening. And we've got emergency backup to fund the operation with gold and silver investments. I'm trying to intensify the amount of films and material I'm putting out, but that's basically it.
That's outstanding. Thank you for doing that. Because that's really what it's going to take, is that somebody has to stand up. And the more people stand up and wake up, the less power the opposition has. Well, what I do as Rich Dad is I explain how the rich play the game. And that way I have a choice of games. I wouldn't send my kid to school to get a job, because you're just being programmed to be proletariat, working class. I'd rather have my kid learn to be a capitalist. And that's what I fought for. That's all I'm saying. I fought for capitalism, and we have a bunch of fascist Nazis running the show. They're not even socialists.
Yeah, socialism's bad enough, but at least theoretically some of the stolen loot gets to somebody. But here it just all goes offshore to these people, and they just get away with more and more. It's scary to know there's this much hubris in the ruling class.
Well, what frightens me is when the government has that much... When I fear my own government, that's not a good sign.
Tell us about the most important books people can order from richdad.com and what your latest book covers. You talk about an unfair advantage, the conspiracy of the rich, the eight new rules of money. Talk about that.
Well, Conspiracy of the Rich was the last book, and it explains, which a lot of people already know, is how the Fed started, the Bretton Woods, but why we don't have a big section of this, why there's no financial education in schools. And that goes back to 1904 with John D. Rockefeller and the General Education Board. And at that point, they took all financial education out of the school system. And that way, they could program people to work for the rich. And our school system, the NEA and all those guys, they're quite happy to have them controlling the education system.
And they take the money out of your paycheck for most Americans, so you don't even really notice how much they're grabbing.
Right. That was in 1943. It was called the Current Tax Payment Act. And 86 was the 86 Tax Reform Act, which then got doctors and lawyers. So today, doctors and lawyers, or the self-employed or small business, pay the highest taxes possible. Now, when you look at me, I pay zero tax.
Yeah, as England goes, so goes the rest of the world with all this tyranny. Have you noticed in the last month the government's announced that all paychecks will now be deposited with the government first, and then they will pay you digitally to your bank account what they wish? They really want to get us on this cashless system so they can really target the entire black market economy and shut it down.
I haven't heard that, but that's why I say it's not socialism, it's fascism. When you fear your own government, we have a problem. We have a very big problem. And what I was saying just before the last break, there's no correlation between government and business. There are two different worlds. That's why Obama has less than 7% of his staff with any real-world business experience. They don't know anything else but to help themselves. by taking our money.
What political advice would you give? You know, the states' rights movement, taking back control of Washington, I see that as the best round. I mean, what politically, talking to 2 million activists right now, people that are really taking action. Robert, what are your best ideas for blocking this fascist cartel?
Well, the best way is take care of yourself. You know, everybody wants to change the government, which is almost fundamentally impossible. There's too many people making too much money with exactly the way it is. Wall Street and Goldman Sachs being one of them. But I can change me. And what you've been hearing me say is that I play by the rules of the rich. But if you don't know what those rules are, you're in trouble. So conspiracy of the rich is where it kind of starts. And this is the first, I didn't know my publicist had released it. But my next book, An Unfair Advantage, The Power of Financial Education, goes into how debt and taxes make guys like me rich. But our school system will never teach you that because they don't want you to know that. So I just explain the rules of the rich, and I watch out for myself. And that way, and I make a lot of people rich and all this, but if I don't take care of myself, I can't save anybody else. So that's kind of my ground. My father was a political animal. He ran for governor of the state of Hawaii, and that was the most horrifying, ugly thing I'd ever seen in my whole life. So I don't have any faith in the two-party system. I don't have any faith in government because, as you and I know, the Fed and the central banks control the world.
There was a Washington Times article about the only city in the nation to becoming even richer and expanding in jobs is D.C. Yeah. The cancer is growing.
Yes, and that's why I'm not political. I would just rather be an independent, like a coyote running around the place.
well, certainly for you individually, that's good, and it's wonderful to teach people to be rugged individualists like you are, Robert, but they're just adding more and more taxes, more and more controls, more and more selective enforcement. I see this down the road where they're going to start trying to selectively change rules or selectively enforce them to try to shut down the cowboys like yourself.
Yeah, but they can't afford to. See, if you understand really the rules, they'd have to shut themselves down. My best defense is to play on their side.
So you know the inside baseball rules. You basically are with the owners of the casino because you know their blueprint, so you're safe.
Yes. And that's what Rich Dad stands for. I just teach you there's two sides to a coin. And these people who are sending their kids to school, the biggest communist thing I've ever seen, the kids just get brainwashed there. And they don't learn anything about money. I'm not against education. I'm against brainwashing.
They just turn their children over to the system.
That's correct.
Where they train the kids to tattle on you, to spy on you, that the environment's dying. Have you seen the TV ad they're running in England where the school teacher asked the, like sixth graders, what will you do for the environment? And when some of the kids say, I'll do nothing, she murders them?
No. Anyway,
no, I mean, that sounds crazy, but that was put out by the 1010 Project. I promise you. It's called Splattergate. Just Google it. Guys, did you find the London Guardian article about government to take British paychecks? Okay, yeah, there it is on the headline. British government to seize all paychecks. What do you think of that, Robert?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Like I said, this goes on in our country, too. 1943, Current Tax Payment Act, 86 Tax Reform Act. Just understand that my new book was coming out. It's called An Unfair Advantage. It may be out in a month or 2 months. The first time it's been announced. But in there, I explain how the taxes and debt make me rich. You have to know how to use debt, and you have to know how to use taxes in your favor. But to try and change these rules, I don't put much faith in it. They're going to always take from the poor and give to the rich. That's what's going on. And I'd rather just be rich and not be part of the poor.
And they've got so many of the poor tricked into thinking they lobby government to protect them from the ultra-rich when the ultra-rich finance the government.
Yes. Yes. That's why when they repealed McCain-Feingold, I knew it was all over. See, what McCain and Feingold were trying to do was limit campaign contributions. Well, that was thrown out the window. So now when people think, well, it's one man, one vote, that's not true. It really is $1 million, one vote. I'm not telling anybody anything new. The rich always control it. So I just chose, when I came back in 1973 from Vietnam, I said, I'm just going to be on the rich side. I don't want to be like my poor dad, a school teacher fighting the system. You have no power when you have no money. You have no power when the taxes are just eating you alive.
Okay, well, let's say we got a 71-year-old person who's got $1 million in their retirement fund. What would you do with that $1 million?
I'd buy real estate. But I'm not. You can't do that because I've been trained for all these years.
Yeah, that's the problem, because you've got to have the specific knowledge, not just the money.
Exactly, and that's why I said, again, in 1973, I started taking real estate courses. Not because of real estate, but I have to learn to manage debt.
Yeah, knowledge is power, and so even if people have money, if they don't have the knowledge or the time to implement it, they can't do it. But that's you have studiously built and built and built until now. I mean, how much is your total empire worth, ballpark?
I don't know, but I make more than $2 million a month without working, tax-free. So it's not a lot of money. I'm not Donald Trump or stuff like that, but $2 million a month tax-free is pretty good.
Well, not to mention your books.
Yeah, that's not including my books or anything else. That's just from income from my real estate, my investments.
But 26 million plus copies of books.
Yeah, I just wrote those books after I was already rich.
No, I understand that, trying to impart that. And that's really something revolutionary you've done that's really contributed to people understanding what's happening. And I've seen the success stories of people that have put your system into motion. They have become fabulously wealthy as well.
Well, it's not so much wealthy as they now have control over their lives. You see, if you learn the rules of the rich, which is get in debt, you will get richer. You see, as knowledge is power, but misinformation is damaging. And so all of these guys who are trying to, save their house and save money for their retirement and all this, I think that's good if you have no information. But if you want to beat the system, you got to get smarter.
I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal a few months ago where they admitted that it's the people worth over $10 million. They're the first to walk away from a house that's upside down. But then a blue-collar person, they'll go down with the ship.
Yes, but that's changing right now, because I was at my local Italian restaurant and the three cooks came out and said, "Hey, can we ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." We haven't paid our mortgage in 18 months. And I said, "Why'd you stop?" He said, "Because the mortgage was greater than our house." I said, "Well, you're pretty smart." I said, "You're so far behind, you're now ahead."
Amazing. Robert, thank you so much for spending time with us. I hope that you'll come back with us in the future, and I'm flattered that you're aware of the show and the work we do here.
No, I've heard a lot of good things about you. I heard you're causing a lot of trouble, so that's why I had to call up.
Well, sir, hopefully we can have you on every few months and really get into, in depth on the important work you're doing. Robert, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, Robert Kiyosaki, just amazing interview there. This hour is almost over. And I tend to agree with Robert. I think when gold goes above 25 right now, that's when it becomes a bubble and dangerous. But I do agree with him. I have so many people who don't have a lot of money ask me, where do I get in? Well, you get in with silver dollars and silver half dollars. And I have the man on the phone who months and months ago bought silver when it was $2, $3 under what it is an ounce right now, who bought a whole bunch of it, and he still got that great deal for you. It's gone up a little bit. But Ted, briefly, tell folks about those silver half dollars.
Yeah, the silver half dollar is at $11.77, and of course the least expensive way to get the silver dollar is the creature from Jekyll Island. You get one for free. The silver is a good buy. You can get into the junk silver, bars of silver. There's a lot of forms of silver you can buy. But
and how much are those silver half dollars? $11.70 something?
$11.77, Alex. That price is going to go up. It really is. I mean, right now...
And then you got the deal for the silver dollar and a 1995 book for $26. That includes shipping. That doesn't take a... you don't have to be, the inventor of the A-bomb to know that's a super good deal. 800-686-2237, 800-686-2237. Get into silver today, folks. 800-686-2237.
Yeah, Alex, people need to be motivated right now. There's no question about it. Sitting in paper is not the right choice. So 800-686-2237 is how you take advantage of those offers.
Well, if they'd have listened to Robert Kiyosaki 10 years ago, or yourself, they'd have bought silver when it was $5 an ounce, gold when it was $280 an ounce. But now's the time to get into silver, folks. And I agree with what Robert was saying earlier. 800-686-2237. Retransmission starts now with the free streams at Infowars.com. See you back live, Lord willing, tomorrow. Great job, crew.